two, one.
We ready?
Ready.
Yeah, my name is Jim Thompson. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Uh, my dad was a firefighter and a steel worker, and he was a World War II Marine. He was acting gunnery sergeant with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines in the Second World War. So he saw action on Bougainville, Guam, and maybe Saipan. I can't remember what the other one was. But he was an E5 sergeant, acting gunnery sergeant of a heavy weapons platoon. Um, and yeah, I wrestled in high school, wrestled in college. Decided after my second year of college, my grades weren't all that good. I wasn't really, I don't know, having a good time in college. And my best friend and I decided that we would join the Marine Corps. And so we joined on the buddy plan. And then after I joined, went out to dinner with my dad and told him, join the Marine Corps. he was really not happy. Not happy. He said, they're going to just give you a rifle and send you to Vietnam. And I said, oh, Dad, I got 2 years of college. They'll probably give me an office job. I'm a college boy. So he came down to see me graduate from boot camp. I was the honor man in my platoon in boot camp. I went to Parris Island and went down in September of '66. He came down to see me graduate. What's your MOS? 0311 rifleman. So he pegged it pretty good.
Well, and I assume, of course, with the experience your dad had on Bougainville and Guam, especially with some of the heavy fighting there that took place on Guam, your dad essentially knew what was eventually going to happen for you to some extent.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, what was Parris Island like for you when you got down there?
I don't know how to say this other than boot camp was a breeze. Boot camp was so easy for me. I was a college wrestler, so I was in good shape. Fairly intelligent. If you're fairly intelligent and you're good shape and you listen to what they're telling you to do, you really can't get any trouble. And so I think I knew within a week or two, I was made a squad leader. And I go, I think I'm gonna win the dress blues. And I became. It was weird. I had a fairly decent, if you can call it that, relationship with our senior drill instructor. I don't know why we got along, but we did. Our two assistant DIs were scarier than shit. Especially one. I mean, just scary. But I don't know, boot camp. I didn't have a problem with boot camp. Boot camp was fairly easy.
Well, with your instructors, were any of them combat veterans of Korea or Vietnam at the time?
I think I think all three of the drill instructors that we had, I remember their ribbons. They were all Vietnam veterans. Now, I didn't talk about it. I didn't know who they were with over there, how extensive their Vietnam tours were, but they all had the ribbons on. So they were all, and then, you go from boot camp to infantry training regiment. And then I went from infantry training, and I didn't like infantry training regiment for some reason, just the opposite of boot camp. We had a bunch of corporals and sergeants that thought they were drill instructors. And they were, you come out of boot camp, sir, yes, sir, blah, blah. And they kind of played on that. And instead of I remember we fell out for an outdoor, they would fall us out in the morning. And it was cold. This was November, December in North Carolina. It was cold. And we just had our utility jackets on, and we were and they just sit there for 15 minutes, just making us stand at attention until they came out. And I remember an officer walking by one day, and he goes, who's in charge? And somebody said, they're in there. And he called them out and said, what the hell's going on here? These guys are freezing out here. They should have field jackets on. You guys take your field jackets off and you could stand out here for a while. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was pretty neat.
A
So
little
after
bit of
that, then,
justice.
yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. An officer stood up for us.
Well, and with ITR, I mean that's crucial for a Marine rifleman,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
if you're new. to the Marine Corps and perhaps you didn't have a father who elaborated, or just in general, even if you did, you're learning the basic foundation of what it means to operate in a fire team at a
Yeah,
squad level and platoon
yeah,
level.
yeah, for sure. And once we got into the training part of it, where you learn how to, you're really not going deep into, you get to fire a 3.5 bazooka and you get to fire an M60 machine gun and you get to throw a grenade and stuff. It's more of familiarizing you with all the weaponry in the Marine Corps that an 0311 might come in contact with. Because if you weren't a machine gunner, you didn't have that MOS, you weren't going to get heavily involved in the machine gun. Or if you weren't a rocket man, you weren't going to get, if you weren't in heavy weapons or mortars or anything like that. I don't think we even dealt with mortars at ITR, but it was a familiarization. And you did some tactics, some night stuff, some amps, setting in ambushes, working as fire teams, fire and maneuver kind of stuff. And then I got assigned to Echo 2-2 at Lejeune. And then again, there's more training, more close order drill. We got the Caribbean cruise. So we were down there and we had jungle training in Panama, a lot of landings and playing war on Vieques Island off Puerto Rico. And
Wow.
yeah.
Well, did that jungle training that you experienced in Panama, did that come to benefit you eventually when you deployed to Vietnam?
No, I don't think so. To be honest, I mean, I don't think anything prepares you for what you're going to see in Vietnam. I just the shock of I remember flying into Da Nang. I think I've heard different stories. My thing was I flew into Da Nang, and then we got off the airplane and went to a little Quonset hut or something, and that's when you got your orders. And I remember walking up, and he hands you a manila envelope, and I turned the manila envelope over, and it said 1-9. And the guy just looked at me and he said, "You'll be sorry." What the hell does that mean? I didn't know anything about 1-9 at that time. So I get up to so we take a C-130 to Dong Ha, and then now it's starting to when I got off the C-130 at Dong Ha, and they're yelling, "Get the hell out of here! Get out! Move off the airstrip! Move off the airstrip!" And now it's getting a little bit real. Run into find out where 1-9's. They're up the hill there. So walking up the hill, I run into a buddy from boot camp who was with 2-9, and he talked to me and gave me a little bit of, this is what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And 1-9's in the field. So you get you pull your 782 gear, you get your M16, FAM fire the M16, and you're on a chopper. First day we tried to get out, we couldn't get out because Quezon was socked in because 1-9 was up at Quezon. And the next day we got out, and the chopper lands. Honestly, God, you can't make this shit up. The chopper lands. We get off the chopper on the Quezon airstrip, and this chopper immediately when we got off, a C-130 or something got shot or hit, and it's running down the airstrip, and this chopper just straight up in the air, and this thing went right by like that. Crazy. And then now I'm at Quezon base now, and then I take another chopper up to the hill where 1-9 was, and that's when I got off that chopper up there. And again, they're yelling, "Spread out, get down, spread out, get down." And now I see these guys, and I'm coming from spit and polish, right? Marine Corps, spit and polish, brass shine, everything is creased. And I saw these fucking Marines, nasty, dirty. It like, wow. So you get assigned to a platoon, and I remember first night I hear a rumbling, And I'm with this kid. He happens to be from Kent, Washington. It's close to us, but I'm in the hole with him, and I hear this rumbling, and it scares the shit out of me. What in the hell is that? I wake him up. Hey, what's that? What's that? He goes, that's arc light. Okay. Hey, what's an arc light? B-52 strike. Oh, holy shit. The ground just rumbles. It's amazing. So that was the start of every night for the next year being in the bush. I mean, we were in the bush all the time. We came back from Khe Sanh, had about a couple of weeks around Dong Ha, Cam Lo, running patrols, kind of getting back. They had lost a lot of guys during Khe Sanh, so it was like getting newbies in and stuff, getting back to strength. And yeah,
Well,
it's
for you, do you remember what day you arrived in country and officially got to 19?
it was like late March or very early April.
Well, and I know
And
too. Oh, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. So again, we started working out of another weird story. We get a new second lieutenant. We're at Dong Ha, and we started getting incoming, and he decided that he was going to do an inspection. So we're out in platoon formation, 3 squads, and there's incoming coming in, and this is incoming coming from across the DMZ. So this is 155s, 175s, what are big shit. And they start hitting pretty close, and we're all in line, and sure shit, a round hit right behind us, and it hit me, and it blew me. I don't know. I felt at that time it blew me 4 or 5 feet, and I remember reaching for my leg because I thought my leg was gone, and I went, "Oh shit, it's here! My leg's here." So I'm on the ground, and then this guy's going, "Come on, get in here, get in the." So we get in the bunker, and we didn't have our we didn't have our flak jackets on. We just had our jungle utilities on, and I felt the pain. I got hit back in the kind of the hip, high on the ass, and I'm trying to look back, and I go, "Hey, can you look?" And he goes, "Oh, you're fucked up, man." And as soon as he said that, I started getting really queasy. And then he said, "Oh shit, look at your jacket." And I had 3 rips in my jacket where shrapnel had ripped my jacket, and that hit me. So I'm figuring if I'm maybe 6 inches this way, that all that shrapnel would have gone into my back and spine. So it is what it is. It's just luck. Yeah.
There it is.
And then so we're working out of Dong Ha. We go to we're headed up to Camp Carroll, and we now have road clearing on Route 9. That was our duty, clear mines on Route 9. And so I've got the platoon radio, so I have to go out on this road clearing thing. And sure as shit, we're walking right up Highway 9, and we start getting mortared. And I got hit again, and that was okay. You know, shrapnel, not a big deal. I stayed out in the field, but now that's 2 Purple Hearts. And then we go to we start working operations out of Camp Carroll for just a little while. And June 18th, so the day we pulled into Camp Carroll, we got hit. And we were supposed to go on this operation on June 18th. And the night before, we had Sergeant Spaulding had the operation order. And he said, "Well, we're getting put into this LZ, and there's active NVA mortars surrounding this." And we all kind of just looked at each other, what the hell? So we're going to this LZ, and there's active mortars all around. Interesting. So sure as shit, the next morning, we go down, get on the heli lift. We come in on the chopper, and we get off the chopper, and there's fucking Marines everywhere. I don't know if we're the third chopper in, fourth chopper in, but the LZ is just loaded with Marines. And I look at Staff Sergeant Spaulding, and he looks at me and he goes, "Tell them to get moving, get them off." I go, "Shit, we got to get off this hill." So call the platoons, Charlie 1, Charlie 2, Charlie 3, start moving toward the objective. And we didn't take 15 steps and the first mortar started going, and they were coming in threes. Thump, thump, thump. Bam, bam, bam. Thump, thump, thump. Bam, bam, bam. So NBA 82s, I think they had, or 81s. I can't remember what they had. We were getting mortared pretty good. And the very first round they came in, got my two best friends. They were machine gunners, Calvin Golden and Bobby Lane. And they cooked off, so we couldn't even get near them. And we were pinned down for hours with these mortars, and they couldn't knock them out. And I think we lost like 25 guys that day.
Jeez.
But those are the first friends I lost. Really personal friends. And that hurt. That really hurt. And we were out 3 or 4 days. I don't know. I found this interesting. This thing, June 18th was always just a really sad day for the rest of my life. And June 18th came, and I always thought about June 18th, and not in a good way. And this family did a study on what the hell happened on June 18th and why, but they lost a son on June 18th. And this was just a little sweep. I don't know, a sweep. But this is how many guys we lost that day.
Jeez. So did the battalion just run into a dug-in NVA battalion? Was it a regimental size? How many NVA were out there?
I don't know if they ever really figured it out. 3 days later, we moved out and went back to Camp Carroll, and less a few guys, and then we were back, within, I don't know, a week or so of going back out on another operation. And then I think this one coincided with, you heard about Operation Buffalo?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we were 1-9. Another weird story. We got, hold on.
Go for it. I'll pause the record.
Yeah, we're good. So some of the guys still in Charlie Company were on Operation Buffalo. And we were listening to the radio, and we got Hanoi Hanny, or whatever her freaking name was, and she knew, she knew that we had left the guy. So before we left Vietnam, we got into this debacle on Hill 689. The Alpha Company went out, got in ambush. Charlie Company went out to help. Ran into the shitstorm. I'm thinking 55 guys died from those two companies on Hill 689, and we lost our company commander, and we left somebody alive back then. We couldn't get to him, and that's an incredible story. If you want to read a story about it. His name was Preacher, and they went back and got him, but he was with the company commander. He said, I was with him, and then I wasn't with him. And he just disappeared. But anyhow, so we're at Camp Carroll, and we got the radio on, and she mentioned his name. And this guy freaked out. And then she said, I know 1-9 is going back to the marketplace. So how in the hell? And sure as shit, we went back to the marketplace where Operation Buffalo was exactly 1 year before. And I remember NBC news cameras were there because everybody thought, 1-9 is going back to the same place where they got annihilated on Operation Buffalo. And so there was NBC cameras and CBS cameras and all that stuff up. It ended up being, you know, nothing happened. It was just another operation where we didn't see a lot of action. But yeah, that was crazy stuff. But the thing is, we're always out in the bush. I think that's what I was trying to get to. We started working after that Camp Carroll, the second operation out of Camp Carroll. We started working out of Vandegrift Combat Base, and so we
BCB.
would come back to combat Vandegrift for a day, maybe two, and then we'd be down in the LZ again. We'd be out. We'd come back with 3 or 4 weeks. We'd be out. We'd come back a couple of days, maybe a day, go out again. It was, I think, the new battalion or regimental commander battalion. No, it was the general of the 3rd Marine Division said he wanted us to be air mobile, like the 1st Air Cav Division, 1st Air Cav. We weren't going to sit in positions anymore. We were going to be always out moving around. So that meant we were never back into base. We were always just on a chopper going somewhere, and then just being out beating the bush.
Well, with these areas you mentioned and the amount of bush time that you do have, what kind of terrain are you operating in terms of, are we looking at vertical slopes and
Yeah,
mountains?
it was mountains. It was mountains. It was climbing up mountains, 15 clicks a day, up and down, triple canopy, helping each other up, thick, thick stuff. Hot is hot, and it was thick. And we would dig in, move out the next day, go to another objective, dig in, move out the next day. It was just patrolling. Every once in a while, we'd set in for maybe a week and work patrols out of that, but that was very rare. It was just moving around. We ran into I think it was September of '68. We went into the DMZ on an operation. I remember we flew over the Benhai River and landed just south of the Benhai River. And so we were inside the DMZ. And I don't remember, at that time, we weren't working as a regimental. It could be 1-4, 1-9, and 2-3. It could be 127, 2-9, and whatever. Never did we ever work as a regimental unit. We were always opconned to someone else, or someone was opconned to you. So I remember this operation specifically. We didn't have any incoming on we had never been in a DMZ before, so we carried a lot of extra crap with us because we didn't know anything about resupply. If we were going to get resupplied, where we were going, So we carried a lot of extra gun ammo. We carried a lot of extra C rations, and we were really burdened down. And I remember we were moving up a pretty steep slope like this. It was like this, and it was kicking our ass. And I remember a kid in front of us. I think he had been transferred up from the 27th Marines, and I think he was used to flat land, and like he was falling out. And then all of a sudden we heard a boom behind us, and somebody had either tripped a booby trap or had a grenade had blown up. And so we needed an emergency medevac. And there was no place to blow an LZ where we were, and it was emergency. And that chopper came in, the hill was like this, and we were all watching, and he comes in backwards like this, and he's just floating, and he put this back ramp down, and the things are like, and we were right on the side of the hill, so we were all like leaning back like this, because it's shoo, shoo, shoo. Amazing. Got him out. So anyhow, we're just about to the top of the hill, and this kid, he can't carry his gun ammo, and the gun ammo's in the cases, so we didn't put them, they're in the cases. And I said, give me your gun ammo. So I'm going to carry this kid's gun ammo up to the top. And it was like, at this moment, it was pride for me. I was going to make it up that freaking hill, carrying that gun ammo, carrying my radio, carrying the extra batteries. And I made it up the top of that hill, and that was an ass kicker. And I remember we dug in, and then we got the word, we're moving. Because everybody thought, wow, this is where we're staying for the night. But we didn't. So everybody's pissed. We had to move again. That happened rarely, but it happened that day. So we found lot of a lot of there was a lot of activity on that operation. We found hospitals up there. We found caches of uh, enemy ammo. But the funny little story is we got the word that another battalion was going to move to our position. So we moved off to the side and we're kind of taking a break, smoking cigarettes. And it got really, really, really quiet. And this unit's moving through us. And they're kind of looking at us. Hey, who are you guys? I go 1-9. And this guy goes, holy shit, 1-9. We don't want to be anywhere near you guys. Holy shit, 1-9. Fuck this shit. that's the kind of reputation 1-9 had. People didn't even want to be around us. I don't know if it was fair, but we had it. And I remember this kid's eyes just got that big. 1-9. Oh shit.
Well, I mean, you think about the legend and the legacy of 1-9 even in Vietnam, especially after Operation Buffalo, but then
Yeah.
thinking about the time that you guys spent at Quezon, I mean, hell, everybody
Yeah.
knew that name. Within
So take a battalion, get them decimated at Operation Buffalo, then send the same guys to Quezon, then send the same guys to the Ashau Valley. Shit.
Well, and for people who will watch this interview that don't know the context of Vietnam and where 1-9 is situated in the northwest corner of I Corps, that's NVA territory. That is
Oh yeah.
not,
No, yeah,
we are hardcore regulars.
we never saw BC. We never fought a BC. We were never in villages. We were in the mountains the whole time. Almost my whole tour was in the mountains. Um, like I said, we would come back, a rest, a couple days, and then we were out again. So we were always out. We were always moving. We were always eating sea rations. Um, I, you know, it was amazing. Every day you wake up and you're alive, and it's hard to explain, but every day that you woke up, Vietnam had its moments, obviously, when you see friends killed and stuff. But overall, I'm not saying that I had a good time there, but and I'm not saying I enjoyed it. I don't know how to say this. It wasn't wholly traumatic. Um, it it was in a way it was kind of cool. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I remember this one operation we landed, and I think that's the first time I saw the choppers coming in. We had gotten there maybe the second or third chopper in, and the rest of the choppers were coming in, and you see Marines getting off and stuff, and I'm going, man, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Yeah, but again, it had its moments, you know. And again, I was kind of lucky. I didn't have to go on being on company radio and the battalion radio. I didn't have to go on ambushes. I didn't have to go on LPs. I mean, I did before I got those radios, but a lot of my tour, and a lot of people go, well, yeah, you were in a company CP. That's the first people that got hit. You know, a lot of times you were the four antennas. You know, they knew where the company CP was. So it had its trade-offs, I guess. Again, the thing about being an infantryman in Vietnam is that you never got a night's sleep. So it's hard to explain to somebody, oh, yeah, you got woken up early, or yeah, you got to bed late, or, you know, you woke up in the middle of the night. We never had a night. We never had a day or a night, however you want to call it, where we had a full night's sleep. Because even when you were in the rear, you still had radio watch. So you never got a full night's sleep. So for a year, until you went on R&R, you never got a full night's sleep. It was always interrupted. Yeah.
Well, even with all of that too to think about, I mean, when you first get in country, you get handed a radio, and it's not your MOS. So how did you even get a platoon radio to begin with?
I don't remember. I carried it. You know, it was like a squad radio, and then Sergeant Spalding said, "I want you on the radio." And they're not that difficult to learn how to talk on the radio. You know, you don't say names over the net. You know, there's rules that you learn on the job training. That's why when I'm watching a movie, like I'll watch that stupid ass movie, Full Metal Jacket, the worst freaking movie I've ever seen in my life for Vietnam. This guy's on the radio going, "Hey Jackson," or "Hey," you never say a name on the radio. You never, ever, ever, ever said. They wouldn't even let us swear on the radio. I got chewed out because I said "fuck" once, and I go, "Man, fucking combat. What are you talking? Can't say fuck on the radio." No, no swearing on the radio. Yeah, okay. But you never, it was never you. So if you wanted to say my name on the radio, it was character Tango, 2229712. So you give a guy's, and that's how all the KIA, all the WIA. If you had somebody that needed to go out on R&R or was rotating, his name was character Sierra and his service number, or character Tango and his service number. Everything was coded. I carried, when I got the battalion radio, I had to carry a code book, and that code changed. But everything of importance when you got something that came in from battalion or regiment was not all of it, but a lot of it was coded. So a lot of it would be, you will move to, and I shackle, and then there was code, and then you'd copy it down, and then after the whole message was given to you, you take your code book out, your shackle book, and then you uncode everything, and then you knew where you were going, and then you never gave strength, ammo, any of that stuff. That was all coded because they were on our radios. And I remember a couple times over there, we have to change our call sign changed because it had been compromised, or a password had been compromised. And then what? We have to change our freaking call sign, man. That was crazy.
Well,
Like
and
we were,
I was going to ask,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Do you remember
No,
some of
like
the
I
call signs
remember
used?
my our we were Garden Valley for a while, and then we were like Sandbox, I think was our last one. So I would be Garden Valley Charlie or Garden Valley Sandbox. Um, but yeah, no, the radio was. I enjoyed the nice thing about being on a battalion radio was I knew what was happening before even the skipper, because I would get the message, and then he would have to come over and mileage. Where we're going? What's happening? And I go, here it is, man. So I would, decode it for him, and then it was nice because I always knew as much as you could. If you're out in the platoons and stuff, you don't know what's going on. But if you're in a company CP, you kind of have an idea of what's going on, a fairly good idea where we're going, what's happening. So that was kind of fun.
Well, as a radio man too, like outside of the knowledge you have, you also have to be pretty talented to an extent at map reading and at least understanding map coordinates
Yeah,
and cardinal
yeah,
directions.
we did. We had to know how to read a map and coordinates and stuff like that. I we had one particular skipper who he was a nice guy. I don't know if he was really a great combat skipper, but he made out a patrol, and he hands it to me, and I look at it, and he made some mistakes. He made some mistakes, and I didn't tell him that he made mistakes, but you got to know where those guys are, because you're calling in H&E and you're calling in predetermined fireplaces, and if they get hit, you got to know where they are. Yeah, and it wasn't a huge mistake, but come on, man, we didn't have him very long.
Well, and on the topic of it too, with your time in Charlie 19, how would you describe some of the officers that you served with that were platoon leaders or even the skippers and XOs that you saw?
I had a fantastic platoon commander in Sergeant Spalding. Lieutenant Ray was one of our skippers that I carried the radio for. Fantastic guy. He was a first lieutenant, really knew his stuff. I had a Captain Moore, good guy. And then we got Captain Kelly, was right before we went on the Operation Dewey Canyon. So I didn't really get to know him too much. I guess he was good. He was good. I think most of the officers that we served with, at least that I knew, most of the platoon commanders and stuff, they were good. They didn't serve all that long in the field like we did. I think they did 6 months in the field, and then they would, go to regimental commander or battalion command. Most of the NCOs, I think just like in World War II, we had some really good NCOs. I mean, when I got there, we had two sergeants from Ohio, and I was from Ohio, so we bonded immediately. And that that may have led to me getting the radio. Now that I think about it, but we had a big Ohio flag out and all that stuff, and they were badasses. So I would consider those two, and I can't remember their names because they rotated maybe a month or so after I got there, but they were big and bad and had been through Buffalo, had been through the whole siege of Quezon. They were badasses. They were badasses, and they knew their shit. When we got hit in that, we had a bunch of new guys at that time. When we got hit when we were standing out in inspection, everybody scattered during the incoming, and they started screaming, "You don't leave your fucking rifles! What are you doing? There's rifles on the ground. What are you doing, leaving your rifles?" Whoa, you're right. I mean, guys just dropped their rifles and ran for bunkers, because we were in the rear. But they didn't want that. So the NCOs were phenomenal. The corpsmen were beyond amazing. I never saw a corpsman over there that didn't run to action, run to a wounded Marine. They were fabulous, fabulous. All the docs, they were amazing, and they took care of us. They took care of us. They took care of us with the salt tablets. They took care of us with our jungle rot. They just took care of us, all the time. They were concerned. They're like little mamas walking around to making sure everybody was okay. Good guys, really good guys. Yeah.
Well, with your experience overall, I mean, and looking back on the members of 1-9 that definitely had an impact in the experienced folks. When you finally get there, do you remember the first time that you came under fire in that first combat experience?
Yeah, that was the incoming at Dong Ha, and that was. It's all I think of the first patrol you're on, I think stands out more because you don't really know what you're doing, but you're on patrol. And I think at that point, you're just trying to stay alert, and you're walking and shit. You wouldn't know a freaking bunker if it walked up on you. I mean, you don't know. I think that was really, wow. This is like I'm on a freaking patrol. And I remember one of these sergeants going, "Hey, there's a spider. Go check that out." I didn't see it. I walk over there. It was empty, but he saw it. I didn't see it. So just walking on a patrol, yeah, just that's scary because you just don't know. You don't know what you're doing. When the incoming was scary because that's big stuff, and you're in a bunker and you're just praying. You're just praying. There's nothing you can do. You just have to ride it out, and you're scared shitless. And those things are coming across the DMZ, and they're hitting all over the place, and it's rumbling, and dirt's falling on you, and yeah, you're just curled up with the guy next to you, and you're just praying. It's scary. I think when you're when the couple of the firefights, when you're busy and you're talking to the platoons and talking to the captain, and he's yelling at you to get to find out what's going on up there. You don't there's no time. You're not scared in that instant. You can hear, bullets whizzing over. I think the scariest part, June 18th by far, was the scariest day I had in Vietnam. That because we just got mortared and mortared and mortared and mortared, and there wasn't a damn thing we could do about it. We couldn't knock the damn things out with airstrikes for some reason. And I remember getting up once and looking, and I'm seeing all these trees, and I'm watching CH-46 helicopters flying through these trees. And I think if the way I understood it, Delta Company overran almost by accident one of the NBA mortar pits and knocked it out. And then that night we heard, I don't know if this is true or not, Delta Company got hit at night with mortars, and they never mortared at night. And somebody said, well, the dumbasses were playing their radios and stuff, so the NBA knew where the hell they were. I don't know if that's true or not. That could be one company going, yeah, Delta company, not they don't have their shit together, or Charlie company. We would never do that. Don't know if that's true or not, but they did get hit that night. Yeah, yeah.
Well, for your time there too, especially on, for example, June 18th, the day that definitely still has an impact on you with the anniversary of it every June 18th, when the mortars did stop and like the body recovery process begins, did you play a role in guiding those helicopters in to retrieve the
No,
bodies and take
no,
the
that
wounded
would have
out?
been no. I just had the platoon radio at that time. That would have been a company thing. Um, but you flash forward 3 years ago. So I ended up being a wrestling coach and high school wrestling coach, high school football coach, and we were at practice spring ball, and it. I see a car pull onto the practice field, and I go, "What the hell is this? Must be one of these kids' birthdays." Here comes mom, who's going to come out to practice and give her son a birthday cake. Because I see these women get out of the car, and I look, and one of them's my wife, and I go, "What the hell is this?" So they walk over, and I guess my head coach knew about this. I didn't know about it. They had there's a group on Whidbey Island where we live that give quilts to the veterans, and they had been trying to give me a quilt for a long time, and for some reason couldn't do it. So they called and said, "Is it okay if we bring this quilt out to them during practice?" And they bring the quilt out to me, and it was amazing. But what was more amazing was, guess what the date was?
June 18th.
June 18th. Man, oh man, fuck. You know, like a lot of guys, I kept a lot of it inside. And my first wife, I didn't talk to her about it. I didn't talk to anybody about it. My second wife, I started going out with her, and they had the traveling wall. And I said, "Wow, it's at the Seattle Pacific Science Center. I want to go see the traveling wall." And there was one specific name that I wanted to look up. When we had gotten back from Quezon, we were at Cam Low. It wasn't an NVA. It was like a, gosh, what do you call those things? It wasn't a provincial capital, but it was. There was a bunch of PFs. We call them PFs. They were like they're National Guard, and so we had this compound, and two stories come out of this. We went on a patrol, and as we were on this patrol, Route 9 splits off, and it goes up towards Contien, or it goes straight towards Camp Carroll, Vandergrift Combat Base, which wasn't there. It was before it was Vandergrift, it was LG Stud. And then if you keep going, it goes eventually into Quezon. So we're walking this way, and there's a convoy coming this way, and it stops, hurry up and wait as usual. And all of a sudden I hear, "Thompson!" I look up, and one of my guys that I went to boot camp with and infantry training regiment, and I was with an Echo 2-2, hops down off the truck. And we hugged each other, and, "Wow, what are you doing here, man? What a coincidence. What the hell's going on? Where are you going?" He goes, "We're going up to Quezon." I go, "Man, that's bad, dude, man. Keep your head down. Be safe." So he gets back up on the truck. Boom, he's gone. Flash forward to, I would think it was July. I'm reading his Stars and Stripes, and his name's in there. He was with Kilo 3-4, and he was it ended up. He was the last casualty. If they started Quezon during the hill fights, and it ended May 30th, 1968. That was considered the end of the siege of Quezon, or the Quezon thing. He is the last name on May the 30th. He was the only one killed that day. I mean, so we get to this traveling wall, and the guy says, "You have a name?" And I go, "Yeah, McElrath." And he goes, "What was his first name?" And I just froze. I couldn't remember his first name. And he gets his book out and he goes, "McElrath, Winston." And as soon as I heard Winston, I fucking lost it. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I don't know if I'll ever get over that one. That one hurts. One hurts. Will always hurt. But anyhow, so many kids, so many good kids, so many good kids. I think if this country is going to learn anything about the Vietnam veterans, is that every day there were kids doing stuff that normal people couldn't fathom and couldn't understand, and would be appalled that they went through what they went through. And the bravery and the amount of self-sacrifice that I saw over there, these kids were amazing. They were amazing. I don't think, yeah.
It's that famous quote, uncommon valor was a common virtue.
Yeah. Yeah, they were amazing. Amazing kids. So,
Well, with that experience and thinking about the connections that you have there, Jim, have you ever been to the wall in Washington?
oh yeah. Yeah, I've been there 3 times. Yeah, I went back when I went to see my friend who got the Navy Cross. I took my son, Evan, who's not been there, and we went at night. And it's amazing at night because there's nobody there, and you can just walk up and down and just, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, three
So for
times
you,
been there.
do you
I
remember your
also
first
been to
time
the.
seeing it?
Have you been to the museum at the Marine Corps Museum? You ever been
Yes,
visited
sir.
that?
Twice.
So there's a great big gun in there in the Vietnam section. There's a great big cannon in there, a great big artillery piece. Charlie Company, my old platoon, 3rd Platoon Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines captured those things. And it used to be at the gate. It used to be inside the gate at Quantico, and then they moved it over to the museum. But it's a great big Russian artillery piece that we captured.
Yeah, I was
And
just there Saturday. Where was that captured at?
that was neat. That was neat. They fought hard for that. They didn't want to give that up. Believe me, they didn't want to give that up. They fought hard for that. Yeah. Dewey Canyon. I don't know if you know a lot about Dewey Canyon.
I do.
It was a dickhead. It was a dickhead from day one. It was just relentless, relentless. The terrain was crappy. It was, yeah. We got hit first night, second day, second night. We moved out on February 13th. We had a dog handler with us. His name was Corporal Roan, and his dog was Hobo. And we got to work with Hobo a few times, and we weren't always that happy to work with. Hobo was, you go out with a dog, and they're always alerting, and a lot of times they're alerting over nothing. So a lot of times you have to stop to call them again. Okay, move out, stop, dog alerting, blah blah blah. But Hobo was really cool because we put granny glasses on him and bush hat on him and take pictures of him and stuff. His handler was a pretty cool guy. So we're moving out in single column. and all hell broke loose. And he had they had walked right into an ambush, and the dog got killed. Corporal Owen got his legs. I think he lost one or two of his legs. Yeah, we got so yeah, and then so we dug in right there because we couldn't really go anywhere. And then that night they hit us again, and they hit the first RPG came in and hit the company CP, blew me up out of the hole. Skipper blew him up, concussion. They hit the gun positions, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it was bad. We were surrounded that night. We're throwing rocks down the hill. I don't know why they didn't finish it off, but they didn't. So the next day, that's when I got my third Purple Heart, and that was the only. So the chopper came in, and we loaded the KIAs on, and one of the KIAs was a kid that he was a machine gunner. We reported to Charlie Company together. So we reported to Charlie Company together, and we left Charlie Company together. 50% of us were alive, if you want to look at it that way.
Well, what by like Marine Corps standards, isn't it you take 10, 15% casualties? God, there's a terminology that I can't remember. But 50% casualties, that's combat ineffective by Marine Corps standards.
Yeah, yeah. I think. Well, we had the highest. 19 had the highest KIA rate in Marine Corps history. If you took a typical battalion strength, we lost 748, I think, something out of a typical battalion would have 15 or 1600 in it. Yeah, crazy.
It is crazy. Well, you mentioned something, and I thought I would pull it up for our first interview here, just because I thought you might find it interesting. Um, but right here, that's
Oh, that's
Corporal
Corporal
Ron
Ron.
Hobo in
That's
Hobo.
Hobo. I got to know him pretty well because he'd hang out at the CP. He was a good guy. He was a good guy. Damn, I wish I had those pictures.
Well, and you know,
No, I mean,
I
I wish I had the pictures I took of him with the granny glasses and the bush hats.
so what happened to those pictures?
I left them. Yeah, it's just a funny story. When I left that hill, I left everything. I left everything. I left my rifle. I left my pack was the radio was in my pack, so I couldn't really take my pack. And then I carried two. That's another. Let me get this. I have a bunch of pictures, but how can I get that? Can you see that?
I can see it.
That's First Lieutenant Ray. He was a company commander for a while. Good guy. So I carried these two things around my waist, and those all my magazines and stuff were in those. And then my pack, I had the radio and my C rations and whatever else I had in there. And then I had my entrenching tool behind that, and the extra batteries, the smoke grenades hanging out. See if I can get a better picture of this.
Well, while you're pulling up the picture, outside of the Prick 25, how much ammo did you carry for the M16?
Oh, I carried way too much. It was ridiculous why I would even consider carrying. I wasn't going to get. I was in a company CP. For me to be carrying that kind of ammo was kind of stupid. But I carried. I must have had. I probably had 15. I probably had 15.
Magazines?
Yeah, yeah, crazy. Speaking of magazines, another weird little story. When we got mortared on Route 9, we got back up to the CP, and a couple days later, I always carried one of my magazines in this pocket right here at that time. So I take this magazine out because every once in a while you got to make sure that they're staying clean and all that shit. And I look at this thing, and there's a piece of shrapnel that went in the front and dented the back. And I went, holy shit, look at this. Holy crap. It was right here. So a piece went through that magazine and dented the back, went through the bullets and dented the back of the magazine. And how the hell it didn't cook off, or luck. Pure just dumbass luck.
Like you said, you can't make that shit up.
No, you can't.
Well, and outside of your magazines, how many grenades would you
Oh,
carry
hey,
as a
this is a
radio
good
operator?
picture. This is a good picture. You see that?
Oh yeah, you've got the pack, you got the shovel, got a couple of smoke grenades hanging out on the side, canteens of
Yeah,
water.
I didn't have any frag grenades. I only had smoke grenades. I carried, I think, 4 smoke grenades, 2 extra batteries, the battery in the radio, 6 canteens, um, the M16, 18 magazines, a lot of weight, flak jacket, helmet. Yeah.
Well, speaking of your flak jacket and helmet, I love asking Vietnam veterans this question. Did you do any graffiti, write anything on your flak jacket or your helmet?
I had I had Charlie 19 written here, and then I had "We are the unwilling, led by the unqualified, doing the impossible for the ungrateful" written on my helmet. And I remember an officer looking over that thing one day. He didn't say anything, but I could see he wasn't really happy. Another weird little story. We were at after Khe Sanh, when we went back to Dong Ha. I looked up a friend who was in the MPs that I was stationed with at Camp Lejeune. And I get over there and he's playing volleyball. And I go, wow, they're tours and they're tours, whatever, playing volleyball. But this, I had an NBA pack on, I think, an NBA pack or an NBA belt. I can't remember what it was. And this officer comes over and he stands, he's kind of like 4 feet away. I can see he's looking at me. I think we still looked a little rough because we just gotten out of the field. And he comes a couple feet over and he finally walks over, stands next to me, and he goes, that's not, you're not supposed to be carrying that. That's not, that's not Marine issue or whatever. And I just looked at him. I go, yeah, well, whatever, sir. And he goes, who are you with, son? And I said, 19. And he said, wear anything you want, son. Wear anything you want. Yeah.
Well, I mean, with that being said, I mean, it kind of goes to the legacy of 19 being that well known for its period. I mean, and now think about after the war.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. There's still, there are Marines. I don't know how much I don't know how much history Marines get, but I've run into Marines that I don't think even knew. I've run into Marines that went, oh shit, you were in 19. Oh man, glad you're here. Well, yeah, crazy. And then I've run into Marines that I don't think had a clue. No, okay. I guess I was always very interested in the Marines, so I knew their history inside and out. That's probably not like everybody. But yeah, we definitely had a reputation. That's for sure.
Well, and with that reputation, it just comes with part of the territory. Sorry if you're checking in the background. That's my dog. He's crazy as hell. Um, but
With that reputation comes an incredible amount of pride. I mean, I am so proud that I served with 19 and that I can say I was one of the original Walking Dead. Yeah, there's definitely a sense of pride.
And that's exactly what I was going to get at. The amount of I've talked to a few guys that were in 19, and every single one of them have said something along similar lines of the pride
Mm-hmm.
that gave them and the recognition.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've never shied away from saying I was a Vietnam veteran. I've given probably 4 or 5 Veterans Day speeches at the high school. Yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud that I served. I'm proud that I served. I'm not sure that the war was right. That's for politicians. I just know that the kids that served over there were, like I said, they were phenomenal. And you weren't fighting for the country, and you weren't fighting for the Vietnamese. You were fighting for each other. You know that. You know how that is. You're fighting for. You don't want to screw up because there's somebody next to you that's depending on you, and so yeah, you're fighting for the guys next to you for
Well,
sure.
and the amount of Marines that I've talked to from the Vietnam and even the few from the current global war on terror that I've talked to, I said the same thing. It's all about each other over there because you depend on the man to your left and right to bring you home and vice versa.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If I this is going to sound weird. I don't know why, but I never took circumstances. My dad moved to Florida. When I got back from Vietnam, I saw him for just a little while, and then I went and saw my ex-wife up in college, and then I got back and I had to go to Paris Island, and then I got back to Paris Island and I had to go get married. So we never got to talk to him. My point, I never got to talk to him, Marine to Marine, Second World War to Vietnam. I never asked him, Dad, what was it like, for you when you landed at Bougainville? What was it like getting mortared? And he never asked me, what was it like? We never talked about it. I think that's so weird that we never talked about it. And it's a regret that I can't fix. And it really haunts me and bugs me that I didn't get a chance to talk to my dad about what it was like being in combat for him and what it was like being in combat for me. We didn't, we went out and we got drunk down, and I visited him in Florida in 1986. And, we went out and get drunk together, and, you know, you were pokey bait Marine and just joking around, but we never really got into anything deep, about what combat was like for each other. And I don't know, maybe he didn't want to ask me. I'm always interested in, yeah, it's a regret. I wish I had talked to him about it.
Well, is that part of the reason, and one of the reasons that you do talk and speak now is so that you can tell your children, or even others what it was like for you?
Oh, absolutely. My oldest son joined the Marines. He just got out. He was a captain. He joined. He didn't like it. He didn't hate it, but he didn't like it. He wasn't. It wasn't going to be a lifetime thing for him. But he did his thing. He served. In fact, he was on a trip to North Carolina with his commanding officer and like 3 other officers, and they were in the car talking, and somehow I think he said, "Yeah, my dad was a Marine in Vietnam." Whoa, he was. Who would he do? He was 19. Blah blah blah. We would love him to be our keynote speaker at the Marine Corps birthday. So I got to be their guest speaker at their Marine Corps birthday thing. It was pretty cool. I got to do a little speech, and yeah, it was neat. Yeah, got dress blues. I got to wear dress blues. Of course, I had to have new ones made. My old ones weren't going to fit for sure. So that was pretty neat. Yeah,
But it's amazing that that door has been open for you to talk and to
yeah,
make others aware about what really happened in Vietnam through
yeah,
the eyes
yeah,
of one combat Marine.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
We have a couple of history teachers that allowed me to come into class and do a couple of talks during history when they were on the Vietnam section, and that was good. Yeah, you see some big eyes opening. So I had a
well,
slideshow. I had a lot of pictures, and I'm showing all these pictures, and whoa.
brother, if you lived here or closer, by all means, I'd have you in my classroom and speaking to my kids just because I do that any chance I get. Um,
Yeah,
and with pictures, by the way, when we do more of these in the future to talk about more detailed parts, of your Vietnam experience and to go back to some other questions, send me pictures and I'll pull them up in the middle of our interview.
I
But
definitely will. We just moved a month ago, and I had a book. I have a dad's book, all his stuff in his book. He has a lot of stuff too. And then I have my book, and I looked for it today, and I don't know what I did with it in the move, but it's got all my pictures in it. It's got all my Purple Heart awards in it. It's got my outstanding uh, certificate of being an outstanding Marine in boot camp. It's got all that stuff in it, and I will try to find that, and I'll take some pictures and send those to you.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, this is the last question I always end the first interview with, and it's my favorite question to always ask every Vietnam Marine. What was your favorite sea ration in country?
Oh, beans and franks. Beans and franks for sure. You know, we got the nice thing about being in the company CP is we got first choice. You know, the thing is about how guys were not dumb. You know, you learn where, so they would tip the sea rations like this. And so all the names on the sea rations weren't, but guys knew exactly where everything was because they were all the same. So you didn't want to get you didn't want to get the ham and limas because everybody knew the ham and limas were right there. So you knew the pork was here and you knew the beans and franks were here. And yeah, the ham slices were here. Yeah, that was, we never got the long rats, and we only got sea rations. And I only remember either Christmas, and we were out in the boonies on Christmas. We weren't in the rear. Either Christmas or the Marine Corps birthday, we had a hot meal come out to us. That's the only hot meal that I had on my tour of Vietnam, unless you were in the rear. And even when we were at Camp Carroll, or even when we were at Vandegrift, there was not a mess hall there. So we still were eating sea rations. So I didn't mind the sea rations. You know, we got C4 and everybody had some C4, and because the little, the whatever the igniters were that were in the sea rations, that stuff was horrible. Um, it was toxic, but about this big, about a dime-sized piece of C4. It would do your coffee and do your meal in like 15 seconds. I mean, you just like that, shit's boiling. So we always went to the engineers, and they would just give us chunks of C4.
Well,
So yeah,
with the food as well, and this is one of the reason with what I've gotten to know over the last 4 years, what I love about Vietnam veterans, especially those that were boots on the ground. Did Ham and Limas have a nickname that you guys referred to them
yeah,
as?
MNFs, MFs.
Well, and to end, I'll show you this. I just got a book, and the guy was a Vietnam veteran, but he does these art drawings of some of the humorous sides of Vietnam and what he experienced in his tour. But I thought you'd find this interesting because I saw this and it cracked me up.
Yeah, that's funny.
Uh,
That was I don't know how could you possibly expect anybody to eat that shit? I mean, come on, lima beans? Who eats lima beans? Nobody eats lima beans. And
well, the
so
funny,
to put them in a sea ration can and say this is what you guys are going to eat. I don't know. I guess if you're hungry, I never. Well, I don't say never. I hardly ever ate that stuff cold either. Um, yeah, that was. We always try to heat them up.
well, when I was down in Quantico on Saturday for of course the birthday, and happy belated birthday by the way,
Thank you,
Marine.
thank you.
I've got to recognize that. I was meeting some of my friends there that I'd interviewed, like you and we're meeting for the first time, and it's great. And I brought a bunch of Marine Corps newspapers I collect that were called Sea Tigers. I don't know if you ever saw those with as much time as you spent in the bush. They're really cool. Um, but I was talking with some Way City guys, and I asked them about Hammond motherfuckers. And this one guy who peeks his head around the corner and says, "I, in fact, loved Hammond motherfuckers. I was the only guy in my company."
Oh my God, I'm sure there had to be somebody that liked those damn things. Somebody had to eat
Well,
them.
and if you think about it, with as much as people hated those and got rid of them, if you're the guy that liked them, you're set for
You
days.
said. Yeah, it's the same thing with you didn't like filter cigarettes. You know, I got all the freaking non-filtered cigarettes because I was a Camel guy. I love Camel straight. So my dad would send me Camels, and I remember a couple times going in the rear to the PX, and you could get a whole carton of cigarettes back then for a buck. For a buck, yeah. And then we would get the C ration cigarettes. We called them like Camel squares because they were in that box for so long that they weren't round, they were square. Give me one of your squares, man.
Well,
Yeah.
Jim, I have absolutely had a phenomenal time. We will set this up again one day next week if you're free. We'll work that out in email and converse. But as
Okay,
always,
definitely. Yeah,
I
for
always
sure.
end all my interviews this way for Vietnam vets. Thank you for your service, brother, and welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, man. It's what I do. If you after we're
Yeah,
done, or
my
even
son, I have one of my twin boys is like he's a Marine Corps fanatic. Never went into service, but he knows more about the units, the Marine units in Vietnam than I will ever know. Like I'll say, hey, 1-4. No, Dad, that wasn't 1-4. That was 2-4, or that was 3-4, or no, that was 1-5. Don't you know 2-5 was that weight? I mean, he knows, and he looked you up and said he was happy you're doing this. He's that's pretty cool.
hell yeah.
Pretty
Well, I'm
cool.
glad I
Yeah.
got the support there. Um, yeah, bring your boy on one day if you want to, and if you know any other
My
1-9
son and I,
guys.
oh, I forgot to tell you, my son and I, we hooked up with Carl Marlantis.
So that's funny because I go to his company's reunion every year in North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked to him on the phone. I've got it on my I've got it, yeah, in my email. So that was pretty cool. We got to talk to him for quite a while. That was neat. Really neat.
amazing, brother. That's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
love when
Yeah.
things and worlds overlap like that. Well, Jim,
Yeah.
you
Amazing.
have a great night, man. You need anything,
Thank
let me
you.
know, and we'll get together next week. Thank you, brother.
Okay. You be safe.
You too,
Bye
sir.
bye.
Bye now.